Objects are an important part of our society as they convey messages and symbols about our culture, our nation, and our country. Many countries use objects such as flags to display their identity, their strength, or even their freedom. Other objects are not used to represent something, but rather to be used for or to be seen, such as hammers, screws, signs, or even vases. Objects have these three identifying characteristics: to represent, to be used for, or to be seen. What object would you use to compare yourself? An object I would use to compare myself is a hat, because of its portraying attributes: to open its mouth, to be used outdoors, and to change styles. I compare myself to a hat because a hat opens its mouth. Ever since the invention of the baseball caps in the 1800s down to ancient Egypt civilization, hats have been used to open their mouths to represent societal roles, groups, or even a favorite person's baseball team. Hats don't keep quiet, and they open their mouths to the world to express their view and opinions. Hats not just open their mouths and express their values, but they stand to them and face fear and objection. Hats are not worn loosely around a person's head, but rather tightly and firmly to stand up and hold to the values they express. Another reason I compare myself to a hat is because of the natural tendency it has to be used outdoors. Hats, because they love to express themselves and express their messages to the world, they are generally an outdoors thing. They are meant to be outside, to interact with others, to be shown and to be seen. They are outside to shine and express their values. I compare this attribute of a hat to myself because ever since I was a kid, I have loved the outdoors. To go outside and see the world, and to interact with others. Hats have the same instinctive intuition: to go outside, to be seen, and to express their values and views with the world. Lastly, I compare myself to a hat because a hat has the ability to change styles. Just as I am flexible to make changes in my life based on how I want to act and or represent myself, a hat could do that too. A hat simply does this by changing the side of the flap. By changing the side of the flap and where the flap hangs down on your head, you can show different messages and views to the world. One example is by having the flap hang down the side of your head. This example shows a hipster or a gangster type style to the world, and is used by many subcultures based on how they are feeling and how they choose to live. Another example is having the flap hang down the back of the neck. While this expression is usually used to show the world that the person doesn't really care what's written on the hat, but that they do like the style. Just as a hat is flexible and can change style or its message to the world, I can change my moods and emotions based on how I am feeling. In conclusion, objects are a very important part of our society. They convey messages and symbols to represent us, our cultures, our community, and our nation. I chose a hat because of its three portraying attributes: to open its mouth, to be used outdoors, and to change styles. Objects have these three identifying characteristics: to represent, to be seen, or to be used for. Which object would you use to represent yourself, and why? As you consider this, it is very important we understand the role objects have in our society so that we can be able to understand the message and symbols that they convey.